You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hello and welcome to Force 13 live update here on Tropical Storm Lisa, which is intensifying as it drifts westward. In the crosshairs, the central and northern part of Belize, which is likely to experience a Category 1 hurricane landfall according to the National Hurricane Center's forecast. And more rapid intensification cannot be ruled out. And that might suggest that the storm could get towards high-end Category 1 or Category 2 before landfall. Can't be ruled out, even at this rather late time of year. Lisa's looking pretty good on this satellite imagery. 65 mile an hour winds presently, and a pressure of 996 from the National Hurricane Center. Hurricane warnings are in effect for Belize and for the Bay Islands of Honduras, the narrow-looking islands towards the southwest of the storm. Hurricane warnings extending a little bit further than that as well, I believe, with tropical storm warnings also for other areas, including the whole north coast of Honduras and Guatemala. So this is our main feature tonight, but it isn't the only storm that's currently active. We have Lisa, which is impending, the main impending threat. But we also have Tropical Storm Martin that formed earlier today out in the open North Atlantic, and we still have Tropical Storm Nalgi, which is starting to weaken in the northern part of the South China Sea and could still affect China and Hong Kong with tropical storm force winds. In the studio, my name is Nathan Foy here, and I'll be with you for this hour of coverage as well as our team. We have quite a few people with us tonight. We have Ethan, Adafira, Christian, Patrick and Marlene. Let's first talk to Ethan, and I'm not sure if this button's going to work because I didn't set it up. That's fantastic. You got to cope with a black screen for a moment here, and there is Ethan and his screen. Ethan, what's going on? Your thoughts on Lisa?
Well, it's been very interesting to see Lisa evolve today. Right now, this is what the satellite imagery is looking at the storm. It's fairly small, it's very compact. Looking at the National Hurricane Center discussion right now, tropical storm force winds only head outwards 70 nautical miles from the center. That's right now, and that mainly is on the northeastern side. And you can see here, not really much tropical storm force winds here on the southwestern side, or really on the southern side of circulation, which is really some good news, as that's going to be the immediate coastline in the vicinity to the storm, of course. We are expecting this wind field to grow, though, over the next few days as it does approach the coastline. And National Hurricane Center do forecast a 90 miles per hour peak, I believe, still. Let me just double check real quick. Yes, they do forecast a 90 miles per hour peak for this storm now. That's up from previous advisories. I know that I've been watching it very closely. It's been teetering between 75 and 80 now. It's up to 90 now. So that is a high-end Category 1. Maybe could get to Cat 2. We'll have to wait and see on that. But my forecast will probably be right on the money with the NHCs right now, 90 miles per hour. And of course, you do have those hurricane warnings, which are in place for the coast of what is this country over here? Is it Belize? I believe
the whole of Belize. Yep.
Yep. That's the hurricane warning is for north of Puerto Barrios to south of Chetumal, and also for the Bay Islands, and that's outlined in red here. And those tropical storm warnings are in effect for the entire north coast of Honduras, the north coast of Guatemala, and Chetumal from Putahero, Mexico. Also, I don't know if anyone can see this, but outlined, you can see up here in this tropical storm warning up here, you can see how it has like that darker shade to it. That's actually a hurricane watch up there. And that is for Chetumal to Puerto Costa Maya in Mexico. So that's the latest watches and warnings right now. And latest landfall location that we're seeing for this storm looks to be maybe north of a town called Dangriga, I believe. Maybe near Gales Point, south of Belize City. That's our that looks like our landfall location
Ooh.
as things stand right now. Really somewhere probably in between Belize City and Dangriga. Of course, that is subject to change. As you can see, these computer models do take this circulation really anywhere within this cone. So that's why this forecast cone exists. Because the forecast cone could be anywhere that the center could go. And the system could track on the southern side and make a earlier landfall, which would probably bring it in as a weaker storm, maybe 5 miles per hour weaker, or it could go even on the northern side. We'll have to wait and see on that, but it is very important to watch for these kind of shifts, and that could determine who could get the eye wall and who couldn't. Just like how we saw with Hurricane Julia, or Julia, whatever its name is. This storm is fairly compact; it's not big, so the core is going to be really isolated to those areas that are really close to the landfall location. Of course, as is also the same with Julian, the main threat for this system is going to be heavy rainfall. I'm just going to pull up the rainfall forecast on the GFS. Yeah,
Yep.
this is the 850 GFS run.
When we look at the
let's have a
potential
look.
landfall location, Ethan, just been looking at analogs, and I would say the prime analog right now is Hurricane Richard in 2010, which made landfall as just got to Category 2 status as it did so.
When did that one occur at, Nathan?
In 2010.
What month?
Late October.
Okay, so that's a fairly decent analog.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a potential track analog. But here's the rainfall threat. Not looking too bad, I have to say, though.
Yeah, there's certainly storms that can do much worse than this, but we're still looking at
Yeah.
6 inches of rain there, 150 millimeters, and it's not always the rain totals, it's sometimes the rain rate within this storm, and if you get close to the central core, you might get periods of extremely torrential rain, which can lead to flash flooding.
Yeah, good to see that rainfall total is not really going to be high here, but I know what a lot of people are going to be thinking about this storm. National Hurricane Center at the 5 p.m. update did forecast for the system to not take this westward track and then dive towards the southwest. They're actually now forecasting it to curve up here into the Bay of Campeche, but it's quite likely that wind shear, due to a rapidly approaching front that's going to come in as this storm veers up towards the north, a front going to drop down here. Pretty similar to what Carl did. This is just pretty similar to what Carl did. Front dropped down and ended up shearing Carl to death. That's going to be the same with this system. So this is pretty much going to pull up into this area here and just kind of just teeter out. Honestly, look at the latest model runs. It might not even get there. It might dissipate over Central America here because
would be nice.
Well, being honest here, Ethan, at one point I thought Lisa was gonna make a crossover into the East Pacific.
Hey, it almost was on the forecast.
Yeah.
It was.
It's still barely in the cone.
It's worth noting that these areas of Mexico over here are very mountainous. So
Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador.
So while this isn't going to be very mountainous terrain like just further south of the forecast track right now, there still is going to be some mountainous terrain that this storm's going to have to traverse over. But what's left of the circulation when it gets to the Gulf of Mexico, we'll have to wait and see on that. I know we've been having recon in the plane and the oh my gosh!
Hey, that old chestnut.
Oh,
no. There,
Thank
now you
you.
can see
Recon in the storm, and I know that they've been getting some support of 70 miles per hour. I haven't seen any firm evidence. I've been seeing drop sons that have gone into the storm and have measured surface winds near 70 miles per hour. Although flight level winds on the plane in there right now have only got really 70 mile per hour flight level winds. So that would probably be around the money of what NHC is saying right now, 65 miles per hour and a pressure of 996 millibars to what they went with at the 8 p.m. update. Of course, they're going to have a new update coming at the 11 p.m. update in 2 hours from now.
All right.
Maybe they might bump up the wind speed a little bit more to 70, though I don't think that they will until Recon goes in and finds 70. We do have a Recon plane headed into the storm right now. I believe that plane is actually still in there. Yeah, the plane that I was just talking about is actually still in the storm, actually.
Where did they fly out of?
The one that's in there right now, I don't know where they flew out of, but I know that we have one coming out of St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we do have that one inbound. Although, will they measure winds at 70 miles per hour? I can't say. Although it is a distant possibility. But it's really going to be we're going to have to just wait and see how this storm evolves because it could strengthen a lot more than what the NHC is saying. It could just completely just collapse on itself because due to land interaction and due to the small size of the storm. I mean, conditions aren't entirely 100% perfect, pure supreme for this storm. That there is still going to be some issues. Dry air is still in the area. I think that there is also some wind shear air in the area, so that's going to hamper development, I think, a little bit. And let's hope that wind shear and that dry air gets to the storm.
All right,
It's not
Ethan, take a
too good
breath.
on the other thing.
Let's talk to Patrick there, because you've got a few things to say about the storm as well. About its, I know you've mentioned one or two things about its core and its eye wall structure currently and in the last couple of hours. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my overall thoughts on Lisa at this time, it's holding on as a decent tropical storm. I know the latest vortex data message has indicated that the eye wall has reopened due to a new CB forming on the southeastern side, which opened the eye. Earlier, actually, the vortex data message was indicating that the eye was closed off, which were telling me that, okay, this thing is going to strengthen more. However, it looks like it's holding off of that right now due to the fact that its eye wall or /eye, whatever you want to call it, has reopened due to the new convective burst. The storm right now is trying to spawn up new convective bursts, and vertical towers on approach to Belize. It's looking kind of shrimpy right now. You can kind of tell on the satellite imagery that kind of is in the shape of a shrimp. Like Ethan said with Recon is currently in the storm right now. NOAA 3 has actually missed the center of the storm, so they are going back around to try and get into the center. And hopefully once that happens, we'll get some actual data to potentially support it.
I have to say, real quick, the ATCF is out for Lisa.
Oh.
And it's gone with winds of 70 miles per hour and a pressure of 993 millibars. That's not confirmed by the NHC. Of course, recon planes are in there right now, and they could find something completely different from that. And it's more likely that the NHC will be following recon and their upcoming 11 p.m. advisory with them being out there. I mean, I can't see them not following recon data, to be honest.
No, of course.
Yeah, so... Yeah, as I was saying, so it definitely is still a very impressive storm. It's got a nice structure to it. It is closing its eye wall off and on based off of recent vortex data message, whatever you want to call that.
A storm to close its eye wall, I guess you could say, and then reopen it when it's this week, when it's organizing, when it's mid to strong tropical storm, low end hurricane. That's actually pretty common, actually. It's just a sign of just the storm is organizing, pretty much. That's all it means. So you're not really going to see a storm that's going to sustain a closed eye wall. It's going to get it as a tropical storm and to sustain it all the way up to major hurricane status. It's not going to do that at all. It's going to open and close at that time. It's not going to sustain it.
The storm does remain indeed a little bit compact, or with that shrimp structure, but based off of this recon data, like you've been saying, it looks like they are going to be potentially sticking.
And that's where it ended, apparently. We've
Once
lost your
we
signal.
get the pass into the center, since they missed it, maybe we'll actually find some.
I
Go
have
ahead,
seen some
Ethan.
questions here.
Sorry,
some people are asking. Some people are asking, will Lisa become a major hurricane? I'm going to throw this out of the blue. Christian, what do you think?
What? Sorry?
Oh, man.
Lisa, major hurricane. Yes or no?
No.
Absolutely not.
I don't think it can be ruled out.
No.
I would have to agree. It would
I
have
really
to do
don't think it can be
something.
ruled out.
It would have to be something completely magical, like it'd have to basically explosively intensify, which you really
Wilma
honestly can never
levels.
rule out.
Not
No,
even that.
no, I wouldn't say that. I'd say, I mean, we could see this become a major hurricane, but it would have to really organize from what it is right now.
All right, let me do a
'Cause
little historical experiment here, and let me see if there's any storms in its current position that managed to get to
Iris?
major by landfall.
Iris,
Iris,
without one.
Iris was already a major by this point.
Yeah, any storm that's a Category 1 right now that got to major at landfall. I'm not sure there is any, actually. It's hard to tell. I'll get back to you on that, though.
Oh, what was that one storm in 1995? I forget
Roxanne?
what it is. Roxanne, that
was
one, yeah.
way further north, though. It had loads more time.
Yeah, pretty much stalled.
Not
I'm
even
looking at
that,
its
it was
track
just much
now.
more further north. So actually, looking at history, I don't think there is. The only one is Keith, and that's a little bit further
Keith.
north than this storm, which got to Category 4 status from Category 1 status in 12 hours.
Which this is not going to do. This isn't going to pull a Keith. We have to say that right away.
It did weaken again before landfall. It was only a Category 1 at landfall. But yeah, Category 4 at peak. That was earlier in the season as well. That was just turning into October when that happened. So that's your anomaly. But no, I can't see any others. So
I honestly think that the fairest analog right now is, like you said earlier, Nathan, is maybe a tad weaker Richard, maybe.
probably the same as Richard. Richard
I bet-
2010 became a Category 2 just as it made landfall in Belize in pretty much exactly the same location that we are forecasting landfall right now.
I bet a lot of people will agree to this, but the storm that reminds me the most in recent years would be Nana 2020.
No, I wouldn't say Nana 2020. Nana 2020 was a lot further weak and was moving a lot more quickly than this, and conditions
Was a lot further
were...
weak.
Well, it was
Yeah.
moving a lot faster. It was a lot weaker by this point. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was pretty similar to wind speed at this point, but the pressure, I think, was significantly different. And Nana was also tiny, and I mean tiny by this point.
Yes,
Lisa
it was.
I think
Lisa is-
Julia and Lisa are kind of relating in a sense as well, just based off of development. To be honest with you.
Start your message with Force 13 all in text. Let me take a moment to take you through quite a few of the other things that we need to cover. First of all, though, let's take a look at the rest of the tropics, just briefly some satellite imagery elsewhere. Here is the Atlantic in a more fuller view, and you can clearly see Lisa down there at the bottom left-hand side in the Gulf of Honduras now. Quite a decent looking system. And look up there in the subtropical zone, we have Tropical Storm Martin, which is starting to look better as well, a lot more tropical this afternoon after suggestions earlier on that they might have pulled the trigger a bit too early. I don't think so. And that is a strong tropical storm there, and that will become a hurricane and really intensify as it turns post-tropical as it moves off towards the northeast.
While
It
you're
will
on
likely peak as post-tropical. by the
Yes.
way.
while you're on Martin, Nathan, I have to ask you this question.
Right.
So obviously we saw Martin form today, obviously, and it's going to become a hurricane. Did you see this coming from like 24 hours ago? Did you see this storm forming? Because I certainly didn't.
I did not.
Models were picking up a little, well, GFS was picking up a little signature from the previous system that it came from, the one we were monitoring as it passed over Bermuda, but it really wasn't worthy of more than the 10%. My Tico's system dropped it yesterday morning, I think it was.
I dropped it a while
really?
ago.
I dropped it later than most because I still had suspicions, but then my suspicions dropped, and then a day later it forms. Short-lived system, but there's going to be a lot of power in that. In fact, the last GFS model suggests that this will have a pressure peak as a post-tropical cyclone 923.
Yeah, this
Wow.
is going. Yeah, this is really going to turn up here, and while yes, the wind speeds are going to be quite low, the size of this thing, and we can turn on the wind gust thing here on the latest GFS run here. You can just see just how big this thing will get. Like we'll go out. So this is 96 hours out. So this is 4 days, I believe. And yeah, look at that. Look how big it is there. It's a lot farther east than the NHC forecast cone is. But like if we go out, say
That's about
5 days out,
halfway. That's
look at
halfway
how
between-
big that is.
Oh, man.
I'll
Wow.
also point out that I believe it was the GFS model. It's picking up Martin in the next couple of
That is
days
half
by
the size of
Friday as a
Europe.
927 millibar low.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
This
massive.
will-
Let's
I
just-
don't.
This will definitely affect Greenland, Iceland, and possibly even the British Isles.
Eventually.
So I have to ask Nathan,
Mm.
is this quite normal for this time of year for a storm like this to do this?
Yes. It is quite normal. It sort
Last
of
time-
reminds me a little bit of Hurricane Ivan in 1980,
Oh no. Ivan the Terrible.
because that was also a late season high latitude storm. But let's just quickly get through some of the other, the West Pacific right now. I don't know what's happened to that imagery. Looks like there's been lots of gaps
Himawari
in the
8.
imagery, yeah. But
Yeah.
you see on those latest frames just the destruction of Tropical Storm Nalgi. There's hardly anything left when you look at those last frames. It's hard to see. There's like 3 days worth of imagery there.
I've got a
But
problem.
Yeah.
yeah, Nalgi isn't looking that good. Tropical storm force winds
Oh my
possible
goodness.
still for a little bit of the coast of China, but yeah, Ethan's
That is
reaction
sad.
says it all. It's not looking great.
I didn't realize it looked this bad.
Yeah, completely dissolving.
Hong Kong and Macau
When
got
you're
off
doing this
lucky.
work,
Yeah,
let me just have a look at what wind shear is in this area.
I imagine it's really high,
Um,
but that's Nalgi.
yeah,
Most people want to see us talk about Lisa, so we'll throw it back to some Lisa imagery.
No, actually.
Hmm?
Oh, I'm looking at a model run when it was back near Luzon. Never mind.
Should I state my opinion of what could possibly be a worst case scenario for Lisa?
I mean, if it's reasonable.
It probably is. For worst case scenario,
That was interesting. Interesting interjection there. Go ahead.
Oh, come on.
that's ban Mitchell.
That's Ethan's
Strike
dog
for
there.
Mitchell.
Go
Strike.
on, go ahead. Let's hear it.
Anyway, what I would say for a worst case scenario is Lisa would start rapidly intensifying quickly if it gets enough time, and it could reach Category 2 status on the worst case scenario, and by the time it reaches Belize. And regardless of intensity, this would be bad either way, because this area of Belize is some of the most densely populated parts of the country. Like, you have Belize City right along the coast there, as well as Gills Point, which I know is very populated. Population density is the highest in this region, although relatively sparse.
I mean, Category 2 there, I mean, that is it's not a particularly bold prediction, if you ask me. There's definitely precedent for that. There's very little precedent for a Category 3, but you never know if this really rapidly intensifies, which it has the potential to do so. Oceanic heat content through the roof in the Western Caribbean, although maybe not so much near the land masses. So here's hoping that they'll get off pretty lightly, and that this storm might not intensify very much. But I think we're definitely looking at least a high-end Category 1.
I
We've
mean,
not.
looking at the latest model guidance, Nathan, it appears that the NHC is still on the high end of intensity
Yes.
guidance right now, which, to be honest, they really have been their entire forecast period. Let's be honest. Although I think they've been doing pretty well, given the ship's numbers right now. And I think that they're kind of balancing that out between the ship's numbers, which are suggesting a mid to high Cat 2, if that were to verify, of course. And the models are going lower, so they're kind of balancing it out in between, which I think is a really good call right now.
Right now, I'm just saying what this would be like in the CHP6 world.
It's certainly interesting. From what I saw as well on the latest models, it's a similar scenario. I was going to move on to something else, though. Yes, if you've got any comments and questions, we've not had a chance to take many yet. Please start your message with Force 13 all in text, and we can take your comments live on the air, and they'll light up for us. Something happening?
Yeah, speaking of which, a lot of people in the chat have been talking about what name do we expect to reach by the end of this year. A lot of people are saying Cole or Owen.
There could be 2 more next week, the way it's going, with already a 20% declared by the NHC and the... Oh, Ethan's
look at
looking
how
at that
massive
one
it
as
is.
well. Well, it's because
Look
of
how-
uncertainty.
That is large.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen here, and I'll show the models here in just a minute.
You
but
can throw all the islands
Sure.
in the Caribbean in there combined.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
yeah, you probably could. But it's going to be an absolute mess here. So get ready for an absolute mess of areas of interest everywhere over here in the eastern
And I think
Atlantic.
2 storms could come out of that next week. One of them on the northern side of that circle that might head on towards northern Florida, maybe. A weak system, but still could do that. And another one that could end up forming in the southern Caribbean, not far from like Colombia and Panama, and then shoot off northwards somewhere, do something crazy. It's going to be an interesting 7 to 14 days in the Atlantic, definitely. And I don't know how the environmental conditions are, but it feels like with the Western Pacific struggling now, the Atlantic seems to be coming on form again. Would that be MJO?
I'm not sure. Let's see if we have... I just wanted to check real quick. Let's see if we have any ASCAP passes on Lisa.
By the way, yes.
No, we haven't. None on Martin. None on
HWRF.
Maggie and
Speaking of
Westlight.
Martin, Ethan. Speaking of Martin, yes, HWRF does a 923 millibar system, 69 hours out.
Wow. All right, Ethan, are you showing models?
I am,
Well,
yeah.
that's 60. Did you say 69 hours out?
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of beyond 5 days, isn't it? No, it's not.
No.
no,
No,
it
it's
isn't.
not. No.
that is
I
in
said-
less
okay.
than 3.
All
Less
right,
than 3. Oh, it's
just
72,
a
isn't it?
small
Sure.
miscalculation.
Yeah, no, I'm
Let's
I'm
go
not with
to...
it tonight.
That's all right.
so
Let's go to Ethan.
All right, let's see what the H-Wharf does here. I have to warn people. I have seen this in advance.
Okay,
H-4RF does go a little bit high, so don't take this one with absolute
Wow.
certainty. Just use it as just an idea of what could possibly happen. Of course, I'll be showing all the models here in just a moment, but here's what the H-Wharf is saying. A little bit stronger Lisa right now. 70 miles per hour, 989 millibars that it's indicating right now. It might be around 70 miles per hour, but the pressure might be a little bit higher than that at the 11 p.m. update, which is when this frame really is for 11 p.m. But you can see here the wind field pretty symmetrical, actually. When we look at the wind field currently on Lisa, it's not really that symmetrical at all. While the H-Wharf has it really in this bundled area, you can see here really it isn't really a bundled area just quite yet. We'll have to wait and see what the NHC does with this wind field at 11 p.m. They might change it, but my guess is that it will be quite, a little bit in the same shape. Right, here comes the actual models. So the H-Wharf wants this to be a hurricane by this time, and a strong one at that. This is 5 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. 4
I got
a.m.
out the
Central.
Halloween candy because I know this is going to be good.
This isn't going to happen at all. I can say that with
How
certainty.
strong is that?
That's near
that's
Cat
what-
3, actually.
90 miles per hour right here,
Okay.
and that's in 6 hours. That's not going to happen at all. And H-Wharf makes it into a Category 3 hurricane right here at landfall, probably with winds of 120 miles per hour.
Wow.
Not
Oh
going
my
to
God.
happen. Although much farther north landfall though, than what the NHC
That's
is
actually
forecasting.
Mexico. That's not Belize anymore. That's Mexico.
That's
NHC
that's
bring it
Keith
down here.
basically there. That track.
Yeah. Yeah, and H Wharf brings it in and kills it off. Does it make it?
No, it
Oh,
doesn't.
does.
No, it's still there.
And-
Tees. Oh my.
And then
Uh,
it gets destroyed.
Oh, I thought it was going to the US then. I just thought, gee, let's move
That would
on.
have been funny.
Yeah, so here's a more zoomed out version of the H Wharf, and
If
here
you
you can
look at the
see, we'll get the 850 millibar winds. There you
Yeah.
can see that front. That front
Yep.
comes in and completely kills the storm.
Oh yeah.
Well,
And if
look-
you go back
look
to
at
the
that here.
landfall, it's a Cat 4 with the flight level.
Oh dear. That's flight level winds though. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
the more realistic intensity.
Tiny.
We can have a look at the tiny storm. I mean, just look at how tiny it is in relation to like Mexico and the whole Yucatan Peninsula. I mean, we've had much bigger storms hit this area than what we're seeing
Legit
here.
the size of Jamaica, pretty much. It's TS Winfield.
HMON here, much more
Realistic.
stable solution.
Rapid at the
Although
end.
Understandable.
Yeah, really blows up at the end there.
Cat 2.
That's 105, 110 miles per hour. Can't be entirely ruled out, although that's probably what I would personally call a worst case scenario. Would be a storm with winds of 105 to 110 miles per hour right now.
I mean, that's
And then-
reasonable.
Completely kills it off. Doesn't make it to the Bay of Campeche. It does not.
Hmm.
It does not. It dies before it gets there.
Yeah. Pretty much.
GFS is what the GFS is saying. Of course, it's going to be low on the winds. Doesn't even make it to hurricane status.
I mean, come
on the
on.
pressure too.
What's the
991 millibars.
initialization though?
GFS underestimates
there's-
things usually.
There's 18Z, and there's 0Z. So
What's
the
that?
wind field's-
50 miles an hour there. Initialization. It's way low.
Yeah, but the wind field's good though. A little bit.
If you say so. I mean, but that initializes way too low. So, I mean, that's something you could look at for its track. Where's the landfall point again? Just show us the landfall image. That's north as
North.
well. Look,
Okay, I have to go look back at this.
that's further south, a little bit.
That's still north of NHC track though,
Yeah, north of Belize City.
and that also brings it in. I have to look at other models here. Let's have a look. Here's the Icon model. We're just looking at this just for the landfall location. Let's see where this brings it in.
North
as
again.
well. Okay.
Nathan?
Yeah.
TMC. Let's have a look at this.
Nathan, Ethan, you should check what I sent in the chat.
We can pull up this. That's a little bit farther. That's actually right on NHC forecast. Although that was the 12Z run, and we're due to have a new one pretty soon.
So that might be a shift northwards then. Having
maybe.
said that, if we cut back to the NHC cone right now, there it is from the 8 p.m. advisory. They actually have it going south of the forecast so far.
I just checked.
Yeah, it's really going to be a real tough call of where the storm's going to go.
And since we've not looked at the cone properly yet, we may as well tell you about all of the warnings, if I may. So currently a hurricane warning for the Bay Islands and north of Puerto Barrios to south of Chetumal. Hurricane watch for Chetumal to Puerto Costamea, Mexico. Tropical storm warning for the entire north coast of Honduras, the north coast of Guatemala, and Chetumal to Punta Herrero, Mexico. And we are looking at potentially 4 to 6 inches of rain, with local amounts to 10 across Belize, the Bay Islands of Honduras, northern Guatemala, and the southeast portion of the Mexican state of Chiapas. Look at the key messages there. Life-threatening storm surge possible near where the center of Lisa crosses the coast of Belize and for southern portions of the Yucatan Peninsula starting Wednesday afternoon. Hurricane conditions expected in the Bay Islands of Honduras early Wednesday and along the coast of Belize Wednesday afternoon. Hurricane conditions possible in the eastern Yucatan in the Hurricane Watch area Wednesday afternoon. Tropical storm conditions expected along portions of the north coast of Honduras and Guatemala beginning tonight into Wednesday, and over the eastern Yucatan in the
Eminem.
tropical storm warning areas beginning Wednesday afternoon. And localized flash flooding expected across portions of Belize, the Bay Islands of Honduras, northern Guatemala, and the southeast portion of the Mexican state of Chiapas starting tonight through Thursday. Promise that we'll take some questions, and we will shortly. Let me just take one whilst we're at it, though. Was the GFS right on this storm hitting Mexico, and does Lisa have a low chance of reforming in the Atlantic or East Pac? We sort of covered that in the models, but your thoughts?
We can have a look here. This is a more wider view on the GFS here. So this will give us an idea of what we're seeing with Lisa. And you can see there's Lisa moving into the Yucatan Peninsula and Belize. It really dies off, but you can see the remnant circulation of Lisa does make it up into the Bay of Campeche here. But like I said earlier, you're going to see this front that's going to really dip down, and we'll go to the 850 millibar winds here so that you can really see it. And there it is. There's our front that's going to dip down over these plains, and it's going to cause a severe weather event over there in the U.S. You can follow our U.S. channel for more on that. But that's really going to come down here. And this is just like what we had a few weeks ago with Carl. I'll get to this mess here in just a moment. But this is just really like what we just had with Carl. We're going to have a front that's going to come down here, and it's going to really induce wind shear in this area, and that's going to really kill off the circulation. And we can see this on the H-Schwarf. I know that maybe people don't recommend this, but we can really see this on the simulated satellite here. And you can really see here as the circulation pulls into the
Check
Bay
the
of
landfall
Campeche.
delays real quick.
I'm not going to do that, sorry. But you can really see here as it pulls into the Bay of Campeche here, it's really organized. A lot of the what's left at the center here it's weak, obviously. This isn't going to be a strong tropical storm when it gets here. But you can see it's really centrally organized. But once this front comes down and starts to kill off center of circulation, there's that wind shear. There it is.
It just gets kicked off.
And I mean, really, honestly, there's not really going to be much of a chance for Lisa to. I mean, if some energy of it does somehow go into the East Pac, it's not really going to do anything anyways, because this whole broad monsoon thing is going to interfere over here in the East Pac.
I saw a brief depression off the coast of Panama.
Well, that's not going to do anything. That's just the GFS being the GFS. And you got this mess over here, which who knows what's going to happen there. We'll have to wait and see on that. But that's really going to be
if we get twin storms twice in November. I wonder if that's ever happened before.
I don't think so, actually.
It has. It actually depends on what you mean by twin storms, Nathan. Though.
Two storms existing at the same time.
That's actually happened quite a lot, actually.
Really?
Well, I mean, it's not too common, but it's quite rare, actually. 2020 had it in 2 times, actually. I
would more call that triple.
Yeah, so 2020 had Eta and what's the other storm that was active during it?
Theta and Iota.
Yeah, Theta and Iota were the other ones, but there was another one during 2020.
Zeta.
Zeta,
Theta,
Eta,
formed as
Theta,
Zeta
Iota.
left.
No,
Oh, man,
Zeta was dead. Zeta was
I
dead
don't even
before.
want to go into that. Let's keep going. Carver says, how would this compare to Dean in 2007? Not really a comparison there.
No. For starters, Julia... how did I say Julia?
You did.
Lisa got its beginnings here in the Central Caribbean Sea. Dean began way out here, and I mean way out here in the main development region of the Atlantic. And by the time that it was
Cat 5 before Lisa would have even formed.
Yeah, but by the time that Dean was passing through the Leeward and Windward Islands, it was already a major hurricane at that point. And plus, it was in August. So this is in early November, which is when things in the Atlantic really start to chill out. When we look at tropical cyclone activity, sure, November produces named storms, but it's not terribly active like August is. Sea surface temperatures have cooled down a little bit. Ocean heat content starts to drop off. and wind shear starts to take a rise as we go into the winter months, and that really limits things overall into the tropical cyclone development, and that's why we're not seeing a big major hurricane threat like we would be in August or September, which is some good news, of course.
Alfonso says hello from Belize. Nice to see you tuning in. Stan Creek District. Hope you're well over there, and we're continuing to monitor the storm for you. J.O. says, could post-tropical Martin deliver an Epsilon-esque XXL swell to Europe?
I don't know. Like, do they mean like swells as in like waves?
I think.
Probably.
I think
I don't
there's
think it's going to be out of. It's going to be, as far as I've seen, it's going to be a pretty normal windstorm. I don't think it's going to be extraordinary.
Let's see here. I know
You know
that
what?
there is some product here. Where is it? It might be a wave period, I think.
I want to
think
make
this might be
that.
what we're looking for. Oh, here we go. So these are
Okay.
wave heights. I believe these are in meters, I believe. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing, maybe. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Here's what we're looking for. So this is in feet, actually.
Yeah.
And anywhere in the purple areas are 20 feet or more. And really anywhere in the brighter pinks are 20 or going up towards 30 feet or more.
That would be about
So,
9 to 10 meters.
so there's the storm.
No,
Or-
there is
oh,
the
there it
storm.
is. There it is.
There it is.
So
Whoa.
it's not that bad, I don't think, Nathan. I mean, I'm sure. Oh God, what the heck is that? That's long
That's
range.
another
though.
one, yeah. It's pretty bad. It gets absorbed quite quickly. It'd be a big storm for Ireland, probably. But I would still say it's not like extraordinary, record-breaking, but it could be locally damaging.
You know what, Nathan? I know this has nothing to do with Lisa or Martin, but I don't care. I bet the South Pacific this year is gonna be pretty big.
It's very hard
I
to
just
tell
want-
what happens in the south.
I just
southern
want to
hemisphere.
look, and this will give us a nice view of it. Albeit a little bit stretched, but up here, but this will be where Martin's going to come up in. Look at how big that gets. 927 millibars there.
Whoa.
That's massive.
It's like the size of Greenland. Maybe
Well-
not that big.
Well, Greenland's actually a lot bigger than what it actually is on this map. You have to keep that in
Yeah.
mind. But look at how fast that pressure drops, though. And this is from 12Z on Thursday. 965 millibars there. And 24 hours later, it's in the 920s.
I'm just looking at what's going on over in the Westpac.
That's a 60 mile. That's a 60 millibar drop in 24 hours.
Impressive.
In the West, that's typical post-tropical
It's a
cyclones
bomb.
over there. I imagine that tropical cyclone or post-tropical cyclones deepening like that, Nathan, is quite common, actually, right? In this
It
part of the
is,
world.
yeah. It's quite a low pressure. I think we see maybe a couple a year, roughly.
Bro, what's the difference between a
Well, that's
Milky Way and Three Musketeers?
What?
If anyone wants to know, here's what we're seeing with
Okay.
um,
Not much
what's
to
his
see
name?
there.
Algae.
Yeah, not much to
No.
see.
Look at how fast it dies off, though.
Gone.
Yeah, that's by tomorrow morning over here. It's gone.
About
It might be
24
gone
hours.
before that.
Yeah.
It'll be gone by before that, if I had to guess. And then look, nothing in the Westpac. There's anything for him? I mean, there's that. And Philippines, but
Some
look,
tried to get together in
nothing
CPAC.
at all, pretty much.
GFS has been going long range for a
Amazing.
CPAC system a few times, but it's GFS long range. It's not going to happen.
We did
Um,
have 2, I'm pretty sure, CPAC systems this year so far, but neither of them got named by the CPHC.
I am skeptical. Canadian says, what was the strongest hurricane to hit Belize? I tried looking it up, and Dean and Janet were close, but couldn't figure out their landfall intensities.
Pretty sure Dean's 175 and Janet's 175. But I know definitely Dean
Janet-
is more intense.
I think Dean's overrated.
Janet, I can actually look.
Felix supremacy.
Janet was at least 914 millibars at landfall.
Dean was around like what 900.
Let me just
Seven?
have a look at Janet real quick.
Both low.
I'll have the answer here for you just shortly. Yeah, landfall at peak for Janet. 175 miles per hour, 914 millibars on the best track. Landfall was just 1 hour before the 914 millibar point there, Nathan. So there's your answer.
Yeah.
So that's peak of Janet. Of course, when Dean made landfall, that was, let me just pull up the tropical cyclone report on Dean. I think that was 175 miles per hour also at landfall, if I'm saying correctly. Yeah, that was 905 millibars. So that was 10 millibars deeper. But this just shows that that while yes, Janet and Dean have the same winds. Of course, I imagine that Dean was a much larger storm than Janet.
But we're way off that right now. Let's remind everyone.
Yeah.
Lisa is still 996, last we know, but they're probably going to upgrade it slightly. ATCF that we were hearing earlier is now 70 miles per hour, 993, unofficial. NHC will update in just over an hour, but we are just here for this hour to talk about the storm. Peyton says, any chance that Martin becomes a major hurricane before losing its tropical characteristics?
Slim to none.
No.
Slim to none.
Once again, Martin is that storm up there, which is, to be honest, looking a bit more hurricane-like, if you ask me.
Yeah. Remind me a little bit of the what's his face. I don't know.
I just want to point out that we'll be getting a recon pass very, very shortly. Like within the next 5 minutes, we'll have the data in.
Great.
Nathan.
But they have gone in and they have got 48 knots flight level winds, 57 knot SFMRs with the extrapolated pressure down to 994.6. So that could mean a pressure getting close towards the high 980s maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Recon are just getting into the center now. They'll probably pass it if I had to guess. What will they find? What data what data did they get? Stay tuned. We'll have the data in just a few moments.
Nathan, your stream UI crashed.
What?
Never mind, it's back online.
Here's a look at Martin as well, moving east-northeastwards at the moment and looking pretty decent there, even though the waters are much cooler where that storm is right now. But our main focus remains Tropical Storm Lisa, currently 65 miles per hour, pressure 996 at the last update. We are expecting it to become a hurricane shortly or overnight. And then we are expecting at least a strong Category 1 landfall by the time it reaches the coast of northern Belize, probably on Wednesday evening. We're talking about landfall time. I would suggest it's going to be a little after 8 p.m. on Wednesday, but that is subject to change.
Is that using Central Daylight Time, Nathan?
I don't even know. Local time.
Are Twix good?
I'm assuming that you're using what the NHC has right now in their forecast cone.
Yes.
They're actually using Eastern Daylight Time. Okay, that's interesting.
Oh.
Doesn't Belize not use EST?
They were using Central. So that's 8 p.m. Central. So that's... that's 8 p.m. tomorrow, actually. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's right on our TWB time, which is kind of convenient, to be honest.
I suppose. Oh, well, we're going to be live, of course, for landfall.
Yeah. So I have to ask you this, Nathan. If you had to make a forecast right now on Martin, what would you make for its peak intensity? And then what would you peg for a landfall location and peak on Lisa? What are your personal thoughts on that?
Gee, Martin looks like it's going to blow. So I would probably go 90 miles per hour peak before turning post-tropical. And for Lisa, I would still forecast a borderline Category 2. I'm not sure whether I'll go 90 or 100 yet, but looking at how it's developing, it doesn't have a huge amount of time. So I think a conservative forecast would be best, 90 miles per hour. And I would currently expect landfall to be probably just a few miles north of Belize City.
So is that a little bit north of what the NHC has right now?
Yes, it is slightly, quite a bit actually.
Wanted it. Yeah, the NHC wanted it around Gale Point.
Yeah, on your cone that you're looking at there, it's probably halfway north of the between the center line and the edge of the cone.
Yeah, let me just turn
Maybe
off the
Lisa
imagery
will
here.
do a center relocation and flip north.
Ooh.
So Belize City is here,
Hmm.
and here's where the town of Dangriga is. So you're saying
For sure.
just north of there?
Gale's Point's just to
The way I'm
south.
looking at it right now, yeah, and the place where Richard made landfall, if you're curious, is pretty much the halfway point between Belize City and that other town you marked.
Dingarino.
Yeah, so this is really an analog to Richard then. But the NHC is but all the models do take the storm off towards the north. But I mean, if you look at that forecast cone, it's clearly going on the southern side of that forecast cone. So they've got to.
It's very
balance
odd,
it out.
isn't it?
I imagine
mean,
it really is. Yeah.
I guess it will be telling to see where we're at the 2 a.m. advisory that no one's going to stay up for. To see whether it stays north or south of that 11 p.m. advisory cone, whatever they do with it. If it's south, then it's going to be a south of Belize City landfall, and if it's north, it's going to go north, basically. I reckon 2 a.m. is going to be key to find out what will actually happen with the storm's landfall. We've got a few more questions here as well, which we don't want to neglect. Dorian says, is this the first time Lisa is not a fish storm?
No.
No, I don't think. Let me just pull up the
I can't remember.
history.
I'm pretty sure that's a full-on no.
So Lisa was first used in 1998. That was a out-to-sea hurricane. Then it was used again in 2004, and when that storm formed to the west of the Cape Verde Islands, did a loop in the main development regions, quite an interesting track, and then turned north. Lisa 2010, out-to-sea storm, affected the Cape Verde Islands a little bit, not much. Lisa 2016, formed southwest of the Cape Verde Islands. So yeah, this is actually the first non-fish Lisa that we've ever had.
Wow.
All of them have been in the main development region, have gone out to sea.
And Vincent says, will Nicole form in the Atlantic? I think so.
Likely.
But next week, and we don't really do pre-naming. But
we don't pre-name. We don't pre-name.
No, we don't really like to do that. But keep your questions coming in. We've just got a few more minutes here to run, so it's best to get them in quickly. Whilst I've not shown all of the stuff that I wanted to show tonight, there's also this spaghetti plot of various models there from the 18Z update. And there's still quite a big spread, even in the short range there, up towards the landfall. But at least you get the general picture of where the landfall will be. The southern extent would be Stan Creek District, and the northernmost extent would be just south of the border with Mexico. So, and then after that, goodness knows. Okay, Recon.
What's that Recon have gone into the center, and this pass, they've barely found flight level winds in excess of 50 knots, and SFMRs upwards of, I think, 55 knots. think. Let me just
Insert
check that
dramatic music.
SFMR speed.
Well, that's not making much
Uh,
sense.
No, so this is not 70 miles per hour. That's what I can tell you.
Okay.
They might have missed a sensor. I don't think that they missed it by much.
I bet they did.
But they did get an extrapolated pressure of 994 millibars.
Hmm.
So the ATCF had 993, right? So that's probably around where it
Yeah.
is, the pressure wise though. So the pressure has dropped from the 8 p.m. update, has it? Yes, it has actually.
Hmm.
So there might be some 70-mile-per-hour winds in there somewhere. But like I said, I really don't see the NHC going 70 miles per hour based on this recon data. They might, but I wouldn't put this at 70 miles per hour right now. I'd keep it at 65 personally.
What's going on in that storm?
Doesn't matter. It's 5 miles per hour.
Yeah, it doesn't make much of a difference either way. It looks like that it's struggling to organize a little bit. Let me just pull up my imagery here. Where is my water vapor imagery?
Mm-hmm.
Right, here we go.
It ran away.
Here's the help if I actually turned it on. That'd be nice. So I don't know what you make of this at all, Nathan. So here's the lower.
It's terrible imagery. I'm going to show one of my enhancements instead that might better illustrate it.
Okay, that's fair.
Let's see. Here we go. This is the latest mesoscale water vapor imagery. What can we make out of this? Not a huge amount.
No, so there's got to be something else going on in that storm.
Pressure
Maybe it's
dropping,
just-
but winds slightly dropping. Interesting.
Maybe it's organizing a little bit. Maybe it's having the time with dealing with land interaction. Maybe I mean
No.
it's a small storm. There's not really much land interaction.
I don't
though.
suppose you've got any microwave passes.
I can have a look
I
in a
like
minute.
microwave.
Wind shear, 15 to 20 knots. That might be our answer there. We'll have to look at some microwave.
Some more
passes here.
questions here. Carver says, what are the chances of Seymour in the Eastern Pacific, Ethan?
Dun, dun, dun.
No, I don't think we're gonna be seeing Seymour anytime soon, unfortunately.
All
Party
right.
pooper.
All right. Are you surprised how quick 96L became Martin? I think most people were.
Yes, incredibly.
Any embedded
microwave
lightning bolts in Tropical
Incredibly.
Storm Lisa? I
You'd
don't
have to
know.
get that one. Nathan.
I don't know at the moment.
So
We
it's
have a
like-
microwave pass
I
from
don't think anything is expecting 96 to become Martin so soon.
this microwave pass is
Yep.
from 80 minutes ago.
Okay,
80.
good.
Only 80.
Is it only there? It feels like it's further west than that.
Actually, it is more than 80. Actually, it's 140. Actually, it's 140 minutes. So this is 23:30Z, and it's 2Z now. So
Yeah, but
That's-
there. Yeah, so that's not really going to help us, really, is it? Because that was from
no,
the start of the event.
Um,
there was a poll that
either way.
that someone on our team conducted. I don't know who it was. Suggests asking what category will Lisa become. 53% of you said category 1. I think that's a fair forecast that most of you have made there.
Either way, though, this microwave pass is really confusing because it indicates that Lisa does have a core. It does have an eye developing.
Well,
But the
we
winds are
heard
going
it.
up.
We heard it earlier when Recon had a closed eye for a period, and then it opened again.
No clue what is going on in that storm.
So, do you reckon it might be a delayed pressure drop? And
It might be. I mean, this isn't really that uncommon in storms where the pressure drops but the winds kind of stall for a little bit. Ian did it. And this is going to be like Ian. But
Category.
it's going to be peculiar, I think, in what the storm's actually going to do. Only time will tell, though.
certainly is, and that's about all we have time for on tonight's live stream. But it's been a good discussion for the last. I hate it when that happens. For the last hour, You've been watching Force 13 Live, our update on Tropical Storm Lisa and everything else that's going on around the tropics, and you can stay up to date on our channel. Subscribe if you haven't already on Force 13 YouTube and our other social platforms on Facebook and Twitter. Search Force 13 all in text. And you can also get involved in our community Discord server, discord.gg/Force13. But that's it from here for now. Thank you to my team for taking part this evening. They do great work all year round. And we'll be back with a lot more updates on Lisa. No doubt we'll be doing live coverage when the storm makes landfall tomorrow evening. We currently expect that the landfall time will probably be at around 8 PM or maybe slightly later. And that would be Central Time. But we'll keep you posted. We'll probably have some more video updates in the interim period as well. But from here at Force 13 HQ and from my team, it's a very good night to you, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.